Start this off in the traditional manner then. So, hey up and welcome to the Temple of Bleh. Different format this week. We'll get into that. I'm Raw and not Jim for but Jim is here.
Hello.
Hello. Also, we have not former friend of the podcast, former podcast guest, karate man, former owner of a gorgeous rack, Mr. Jonny Bakes.
Hello.
And also from Uber Rock, and also we are joined from Uber Rock by possibly the only person I have attempted to pick up and failed at.
Good evening.
My good friend Justin. No one knows his last name. And never will.
Good evening.
So what we are gathered here today to do is discuss 4 bands that we've all listened to and just get our thoughts on them. But the first thing we need to discuss is, what the fucking hell are we going to call this?
We could call it What the Fucking Hell.
That just gives away one of the bands there, doesn't it, for today?
Yeah. I suggest keeping it within the restrictions of one, a temple-based fixture or fitting. Also, the content being signal boosting, what we regard as, or what the general market would refer to as like an obscure band. I suggested Cryptic Offerings.
Cryptic Offerings is good.
I think that's a Megadeth album. I think Jonny I did, yeah.
One of the shit end of Megadeth albums, personally, but yeah.
I'm
not worried about getting sued by Dave Mustaine because Dave will batter him.
I will jiu-jitsu the fuck out of Dave Mustaine. He is a purple belt, but I'll put up a damn good fight. I'll put a cheeky headbutt in there and he won't expect it.
When it depends how much he pays me to stand in the way.
You have to fight the sub-boss before the main boss and just fail like Goro in Mortal Kombat.
Exactly.
I'm still 100% behind Bleh because it's a Bleh pun and I love the Bleh pun.
I mean, I did originally think... It's all right. I did originally think of Sounds of the Underground, but then I realised we weren't girls allowed, so I gave up on that idea.
Cryptic Sounds of the Underground. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll Atletico mince this. Lads, Jonny and Justin, are you familiar with Atletico mince?
Probably not as familiar as you want me to be.
This football podcast that isn't a football podcast, but every week him and his co-host Andy, they suggest names for each other and can either keep or reject them. So we'll keep it as Cryptic Offerings for now, but if anyone comes at the start of this next time and goes, do you want a name? Do you want a name? And you put the name forward and we can accept or reject it.
Okay.
So
works for me.
What I thought we'd do is we'd spend for each band, the person who's brought the band forward to the discussion group talks about that band for a couple of minutes and the rest of us do it, and then we should be able to nicely go through it, and at the end we'll make it a consensus of who's our favourite band out of the 4.
Okay.
So seeing as though you haven't chatted shit on this podcast before, Justin, you're going to go first.
Thanks for that. Well, I picked a band called Sky Valley Mistress. It's their debut album, which came out last year. It's the very kind of, they're not exactly heavy, but heavy blues, if you kind of get what I mean with that. It's maybe slash stoner because everyone wants to be the stoner market these days. And they did actually have Dave Catchings produce their album. He's got the studio over in Ascended Anywhere in California, which produces a lot of the kind of stoner rock, desert rock bands. He's in, I think it's Eagles of Death Metal that he's in. He's been involved with Queens of the Stone Age, bands like that as well. So they got in touch with him and he actually invited them to go across to record their debut album in his studio. That's how highly he actually rated them. So yeah, I've made a couple of notes about fuck up as much as I probably will at every other point. The female vocals, which I love in the whole kind of stoner thing, because it's that.
Can I just add one thing before we go anywhere else with this? Jim is the only person not to pick a band with a female in it. So Jim, you are a massive sexist.
Misogyny in podcast 1. Great start.
I think cancer.
Yeah, she's got what I see is kind of Nancy Wilson / Stevie Nicks style vocals. There's sometimes that kind of hint of almost disdain in the way she does it. Sometimes a bit more kind of, well, but there's a lot of kind of soul behind the voice as well. It's not a standard rock voice in that manner. It's that almost a bit too smooth, but it works so well because of that thing. And it was, they'd been together, I think it was 5 years or so before they actually got round to fully writing the debut album. So it's not like they were brand new together when they wrote it. But still, for a debut album, there's that much kind of, I'd say probably swagger to what they've done, that it kind of strikes me as very different from a lot of debut albums, even for bands that have been together for a while before actually releasing the first album. And that's why I chose them.
Cool. Yeah, so lads, what do we think about Sky Valley Mistress then?
Who are they signed to?
You and your labels, Jim.
I think they've just gone to Heavy Psych, I think, for an upcoming EP.
It was cool because it was reminiscent of like a heavy, to me, St. Jude.
Okay.
Just kind of like super accessible but dirty as fuck. But yeah, I did quite enjoy it on that basis. But the reason I ask is just because when I go on about mine, I'm just noticing that the background personnel is incredibly incestuous. And I was just wondering how often, like I know Dave's is based in Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hell, everything's from Liverpool. Or half of this episode is going to be about Liverpool.
Yeah.
Just trying to see if anyone else is like accidentally sort of like dipping in.
Yeah, they're from Blackburn, so it's not far away actually.
Oh my God.
I think it's about 40, maybe 50 miles away directly.
Yeah. Ish.
So yeah, they're not too far away. They've actually played in Liverpool before. They played at the Liverpool Sound City Festival in 2016.
Right.
But they were on, I think, one of the big stages down the Pierhead.
Right.
Jonny, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely going to pick up on Justin said about it being a debut album. I know when I first started listening to it, there was no way I would have suspected that this was a first release, because it's well polished, it's mature as well. Like it sounds like second, third album at like the very earliest. Like it does not sound like a band who are just finding their feet with their first release. And I really did dig the sort of smooth, very bluesy vocals. I thought like reminded me a bit of Joanne Shaw Taylor, the female blues guitarist.
Yeah.
I think it took me ages to put my finger on exactly who I could think of, but I got it eventually. It was Joanne Shaw Taylor is certainly who I would pin down the vocalist. It sounded like.
I think the album cover is a bit shit, Sgt. Pepper's. I guess if it's what they're going for, it's what they're going for. I don't know. I have like going down some rabbit holes on that album art. I feel like I've got a very specific taste.
Okay.
This feels very sort of like reminiscent of those, in the 70s where they hadn't really caught on to minimalism yet, and they were just chucking everything at the wall. It kind of reminds me of that kind of era. What you're looking at is a sort of ballsed up Russian Orthodox church cross, and the contents of a car boot sale in what looks like a chapel setting.
But all the stuff from the car boot sale is very, very 70s, which is like the era they're sort of trying to evoke, I'd say, as well. So it does fit with it. So yeah. So my thoughts on Sky Valley Mistress are they are a very Justin band. From spending quite a few nights drunk on this day reading his Patch Jacket from behind, there's lots of female fronted stuff from that sort of like 70s, 80s era and stuff like that. So like listening to them going, yeah, there might not be a me band, but they're a Justin band. So yeah, the music wise, it's not really for me. I could get into it at some point, but her vocals are shit on, so I'll give it that. But what I liked about is, and this is where I've actually done a bit of proper listening, is like each song that we listened to was a little bit different. Like I think You Got Nothing and Blue Desert, like two completely different sounding songs, even though it's the same band. But she does like the slow croony vocals on Blue Desert and then more harsh ones on You Got Nothing, but it still works and still sounds like them. So yeah.
Oh, with Blue Desert as well, they don't just have that one sound in the song. It's like Black Sabbath have done a kind of desert rock song in the way that they've got the different riffs as you kind of progress through the song as well. And then, well, the other main song for me was It Won't Stop.
Mm.
I mean, I covered this album last year, got sent into us, and I thought, well, I think it was pretty much last minute as well. Just went, well, I've got a space, I'll give these a try. And it was, for me, it was one of the best decisions I made last year listening to music.
Not many good decisions were made last year, but fuck me, that was good.
I was about to, yeah, there was something about It Won't Stop, just kind of earworm me that I just ended up having it on for about an hour at a time, just on repeat. There's such a kind of poise, I think is the right word, about that song. That's, I mean, again, going back to it being a full debut. I think there had been an EP or two EPs before, a few years beforehand. But for a debut release to have that level of poise and confidence is just unreal.
Yeah, they are very, very together in what they do. Yeah. And production value and everything, you can tell when you've said it's done in like a proper studio, you can tell it's done in a proper studio.
Yeah, well, the studio itself is really highly regarded on the whole kind of desert rock stoner scene. Like lots of people wait for the chance to try and get in there. They got invited across personally by the guy that runs it, Dave Catchin. So it says a lot.
Yeah, cool. So we've all got positive feelings about Sky Valley Mistress then, yeah?
Definitely, yeah.
Right, we've had an Uber, so we'll go for a Bleh, and I'm feeling polite today. So Jim, you can present your.
Oh, you bastard! You bastard. So my band's Video Nasties, and I got a hard on for them when I was researching for my interview with Andrew Field. Andrew Field being king of APF Records. Video Nasties are signed to APF.
He's also a heavy metal. He's also a heavy metal statistician as well.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my fucking best. Anyway, so Video Nasties, I won't go too much into like where they've come from as like musicians, other than they seem to come from a circle in Liverpool which is incredibly incestuous and has links with, and this is what you'll find with APF. What I feel to be finding with some APF record bands, a lot of the ex-members will play in other bands of various bands. As some things fall, they move on to new things, and you see a lot of like common names. Like, for example, the guitarist for this band also plays in a band called SSS. A member of SSS is the person who recorded this album, and then it was mixed by a guy from Corrupt Moral Altar, and a guy from Corrupt Moral Altar is also in fucking Napalm Death. So there's this massive sort of like incestuous fucking cult of stoner metal and grindcore going on in terms of the personnel involved. And it kind of shows, right? So in terms of the sound, I was really struggling with trying to find a foundation, right? And in terms of the points of reference, yeah? Because Metal Archives refer to these guys as black and roll, and I don't think that's accurate, to be fair. No way. I think this is these are my two bands which I think if you listen to these, you're gonna get well, first of all, it's Cancer Bats, right? I get a big Cancer Bats vibe. The songs are guitar driven, but they're way more intricate than Cancer Bats. And the other one is, it's a toss-up between Napalm Death, or if you want to go more modern, it's Venom Prison. It's that sort of emerging sort of hybrid grindcore, but more accessible sound. That's what I feel. But at the same time, there's some really, really vivid scoops out of different genres. Massive fuck off scoops.
Thrash vibe going on with them.
Sometimes it depends what. Now we're getting into the weeds because what thrash, what era of thrash? No, I'm deadly serious. There's some bits in Helvetica which I was like, this is really new wave of British heavy metal. Then I was like, no, it's not. It's new wave of American heavy metal. It's like got proper early Avenged Sevenfold, like Twin Harmonies and things like that. It's really, it's really vivid. But on that same kind of like Cancer Bats and Venom Prison foundation, that really sort of dirty foundation. Similarly, there's some proper like acid rock stuff in there. There's a lot of there's some proper Mastodon-y moments, and it's really diverse. But yeah, that album came out last year. Dominion, it's fucking shit out. To be honest, man, if you put them on tour with say Venom Prison or one of the emerging sort of like Century Media acts, or even dare say it, new day Roadrunner acts, like that sort of the hardcore acts that they're signing now, that's like a proper on brand evening that you're going to be in for. And it's really fucking shit hot, if you ask me. The big one there, the big sort of track is the single hanging tree. Just sort of relentlessly paced and riff driven. It's where it's an elevate. I know I keep talking about cancer bats, but cancer bats are like, in terms of their hardcore driven songwriting, it's that, but the guitar is elevated, and it's kind of elevated that drive. It's elevated that fucking granite block that's smacking you in the face. And Hanging Tree is probably the most prominent example of that. But this is the thing about APF, yeah. My relationship with stoner metal is really founded in sort of like the Pantera offshoots. It's the Nola sound, yeah. And then when I started listening to stuff like this, everything is sort of caught. As I said earlier, Justin, it's kind of like an in vogue thing at the minute to be a stoner band, but it kind of has a completely different sound to what I would refer to as stoner. So it's kind of making me challenge what I think that genre is. And it's got the thing about modern stoner metal is kind of it's really sort of well laced together riffage. It's relentless. Sometimes I find modern stoner metal to be boring as fuck, but I think in terms of its structure, it just flows riff to riff to riff to riff. And that's another thing that these guys do. But yeah, I just think this lot of shit, these are like, the only reason I haven't bought a t-shirt is because I don't like the logo. Otherwise,
sort it out, Video Nasties. Sort it out.
Oh, actually, the logo itself is pretty good, but their album art and their t-shirts are too busy for me.
Okay.
Ubers, what do we reckon to Video Nasties then, and their choice about t-shirts and other stuff?
I kind of know a couple of the guys in the band, so I've
known about these for a while. Tales from the Liverpool metal scene.
Well, I've kind of been involved with it for 21 and a half years, so I get to know people from over that period of time. I probably know one of the guitarists better than the others. He was formerly in a band called Iron Witch, who were very kind of, I think I described them as swamp sludge. But I mentioned to Jim about some of the previous acts that were involved. It's actually 2 members of SSS in there as well. The drummer's also in SSS.
Oh, right, okay.
And there's 2 expendable interlude as well, and a very kind of heavy psych.
That was more reminiscent of my idea of stoner metal.
Yeah.
Mendel Institute. So I was checking them out today, and it was like, this feels more familiar than what I'm being told is stoner metal. It's a different conversation, but I just think like by association, it's an interesting conversation to go, when I say I like stoner metal, what the fuck do I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I've actually seen them more as kind of black and thrash, because they've obviously got that horror influence, which is it's what the whole Video Nasties concept is.
Yeah.
It's that kind of B movies, like gaudy horror stuff. So I kind of see it more as that aggressive black and thrash, personally. I agree that black and roll thing, because I did have a look on Encyclopedia Metallum as well, and saw that, and I was kind of like, I personally wouldn't go there, but I've heard other bands, a couple of bands come out to South Africa at the minute that have kind of got that tag as well, which old sludge and roll as well, which is
2021 the year of the rolls? It's like,
I think so, yeah.
Pirate metal and roll, thrash and roll.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. Yeah, I'll personally say that they were more kind of black and thrash than maybe anything else.
That's the vibe I got from them, was the sort of like overlaying black and thrash thing, but they don't fit the black and thrash blueprint. No. It's not just thrash with like a black metal vocalist on it, like most of them are, because once again, they're another band that we picked where each song we listen to has something a little bit different about it. It's not just, here's our template, we're sticking to this for 5 songs, or, an album, and then, if you don't like it, piss off. It's like there's something a bit different in everything. Like, was it Viva Death, where they've got like the chorus and, them chanting it out and stuff, but it feels different to the other ones.
That was actually the track I picked out as probably my favourite off the album as well, Viva Death.
Yeah, but then with Viva Death, that is where they get the Cancery Bat stuff from. That sort of like pause and the sort of like chord hanging. Is it the chord hanging? I know what I mean, but yeah, that's sort of like hardcore influence where it's like everyone join in and sing the chorus and it's a bit different. But yeah, Jonny, you're silent on the video. That's
well, yeah. I was gonna say, I was trying to like pick like the bands that I was trying to link out to, and I got very different ones to everyone else. I think I pinned them down as like a mashup between Viking Skull, if anyone remembers that they existed.
Oh yes.
Oh no, they've got a new one out, haven't they?
Have they?
I think they crowdfunded a new one.
Because they seem to have been out of action for a long time. But anyway, yeah, it was like,
Viking Skull. Viking Skull were ass.
because you take Viking Skull and then you sort of like, you get your Viking Skull album and then you got a Satyricon album and then just sort of like smash them together,
Yeah.
ground them up
That's
a
a
bit.
good way of saying it.
And
yeah.
That's a good way of saying it.
That was where I ended up with it. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I've got two things that I really like. So let's just like really fucking smash them together and see if it works. And yeah, it absolutely did. That was, yeah.
I was
big
legit
fan.
like hovering over the vinyl to buy the vinyl, and then it was sold out. So
No.
it's like I'd like put my money on these being fucking like the breakout for.
I reckon when touring happens again, if they get on it, they will be just like filling every. There'll be one of them bands where it's like, oh, a video Nasties supporting these guys. Of course they are. It's a day of the week, you know, one of those where you do that sort of touring schedule because they could fit with so many bands, can't they?
Yep, definitely.
I think the fact that where the bands that they've been in before are quite diverse on the metal scene, because they've had that kind of slow, sludgy stuff with Doris Rick, bassist Rick even, and they've got the thrash drummer and guitarist, and then they've got the more kind of stoner metal, as Jim said before, the ex-Ben and the Interlude guys. So I think it's because they've got those different ones. Pretty sure the vocalists in Magpies as well.
Yeah,
but a much kind of slightly different band again. And I think that's why they've got that different sound by the time you put the horror concept in with everything else. That's where they're kind of getting it all from.
It's where a big part of the flow comes from. It's really part of the pacing of the album. And this is my question for the table. Is the horror theme, like the sound bites from Hammer horror films and things like that, is that tired yet?
No, it's awesome. More bands need to do it.
The way that they've done it isn't tired. If they approached it differently, I think it could have gone quite wrong. But personally, I think that the way that they've done it has worked.
I think it's still good because I think we moved from a Misfits place of like proper Vincent Price kind of influence in the way that the aesthetic is formed, and then moved into like more of a British kind of Hammer horror aesthetic. And I think that's what keeps it kind of. I think that is what kind of keeps it a little bit more weird and culty. And I think it does it like I say, it works for this, and it doesn't work for other bands quite as well.
And what they've done is they've hit the golden ratio with your horror intros, because they've got just the right amount to go, ooh, it's from a horror film, whereas they don't do a Mortician and play 3 minutes of horror film and then have a 20-second song at the end of it. Yeah. So it's Video Nasty. So once again, we're all positive feelings about that one then, yeah?
Yep.
Cool, right.
Absolutely.
We got Jonny then, who's probably bringing the most popular and well-known band of this theme.
Yeah, surprisingly. But I think
Cult Jonny.
Yeah, what's not surprising is that of all the bands, I've picked the most southern band, which, consider I'm also the most southern person here, that fucking makes sense, doesn't it? Really, it's how it happened. So yeah, so we have hailing from the southeast. I've got the motherfucking Hell.
The southeast.
Yeah, right down there. Yeah, so the Hell are absolutely tongue-in-cheek, balls out, fucking in your face. Yeah, they self-style themselves as the Hell You Dick as one title. So you'll see a lot of their merchandise has dick on it somewhere, like this T-shirt that says "dickhead" on it. So the Hell have been knocking around for quite a while now. Groove Hammer came out in 2014, which is what I like to call a Ron Seal album, because it does exactly what it says on the tin. You know, it is groovy, but it's also fucking really heavy as well.
Hammery.
Yeah, exactly. It's hammery. You know, it feels like you're being beaten around the head, but while you're having a little bit of a dance at the same time, which is perfect. And then also on Groove Hammer, you had another great track, which I haven't actually picked for the playlist, but is one worth mentioning, is Everybody Dies, which is a really nice, happy song about how we should just not give a fuck because everyone dies. And that's as simple as it is. So a year later, they brought up Bluetopia, which is again same deal, really groovy, heavy as shit. You had tracks like The Fever on there, which is about this fantasy disease called the Hell You Dick Fever, There's that name come up again. That makes you sort of compulsively get down and just start moshing. It's got possibly one of my favorite lines in the song, which is, "If you get down with the sickness, you're a fucking prick."
Which is true, because we're all too old to think Disturbed a sort of relevant band.
Yeah, absolutely. And then things went really quiet in 2015. I thought that was it. I thought the hell were done. So would never have thought I'd be talking about them on a show like this. But no, they came back in, I think it was about 2019. We did a big crowdfund campaign to release a collection of their like old shit and rarities called Now 666. That's what I called old shit and stuff. Which is great because part of the crowdfund campaign, if you backed, I think it was only 30 quid, you got your name mentioned in a diss track at the end of the album. So I'm now proudly featured on that album where it says Jonny Bakes, dickhead, and that's it.
True.
So possibly the most accurate song going. They followed that up though with some new music with Douche, which is just exactly how that album, like that. It's only a short EP, but it's how it fucking feels. It's like having someone in like size 10 fucking New Rocks stamping on your head. It's all fucking heavy as shit, and it's great. It's like, for what is essentially comedy hardcore, I suppose. Like it's fantastic. And then they followed that up again with another, what I thought was a bit of a surprise album, which was a concept album called Joris, the hard rock opera. So the hardcore opera, which is about a guy called Joris, works at a hardware store called.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what the theme of the opera is from the one track I've listened to after this.
So yeah, it's Joris. He works in a hardware store. Starts off, his alarm goes off. He's late for work. He's fucking screaming oh shit as he's driving to work. Gets there late. Boss is an absolute dickhead to him, which is where he starts singing the track I picked, which is Nuts and Bolts, about how he just doesn't give a fuck about nuts and bolts. He only took this shitty little job for to fund his holiday, and he's even had one of them. So fuck it, why should he do any work? So yeah, that whole thing culminates in the real like camaraderie song "Dickheads for Life," which I think a couple of days ago they actually released like a feature length cut of that one. So that's worth checking out as well.
And this is only part one of the opera, isn't it? So
it is.
Presumably there's like another album of.
You got hardcore opera part 1. So yeah, and then on the back of this, so they're one of the few bands that have actually got shows scheduled at the moment. They've got one in London. I think it's about a month's time. It sounds like it's going to be like a fucking cabaret show or something. So you have to book tables, and it was seating tables, and you watch the Hell play Joris.
How long do you think people are going to stay sat down at those tables?
Well, exactly. I mean, people are just going to be smashed off their tits, aren't they, at that one? Because you've got to be. So yeah, that was a whistle stop tour of the Hell. I mean, yeah, I had to pick different songs from different albums because I think it's the only way to really get an appreciation of what they're all about.
Yes, indeed. Jim, thoughts on the Hell then? I don't think I've heard you talk about the Hell before.
No, I was swamped by memories of Bloodstock 2016 with you and Brock singing the "I Got Loads of Money" song in the car.
That's brilliant memory, yeah.
I got 1,143 pen. Brock's fucking got the window down, screaming, "I'm 1,000 there."
Good times.
Nice. It sounds like a not sonically, but like just in terms of the songs, it's like Psycho Stick, but better and less cringy. Yeah. In the same way that we just said Disturbed isn't a band for 30-year-olds, Psycho Stick also sort of like they're sort of left behind in the 14 to 21 category, not in a nasty way. It's just I just think when you discover the Hell, Psycho Stick are kind of like rendered redundant in a weird way. I'm not being a dickhead about it. Everyone's a
dickhead according to the Hell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's just when given the option, I'm like, you know what, this resonates with me in a much more foundational level than Psycho Stick, because I don't know, maybe it's just the Britishness of it. Maybe it's just like the guy sounds like a fucking sick Johnny Rotten. Maybe.
maybe, but yeah. So now, Justin, I want to hear your opinion on the hell, because you're very quiet on bands like this.
I did make a note for. I'm not sure if I should say this or not. I saw it as Goldie Looking Chain trying to make music for angry 16-year-olds.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So yeah, very much comedy hardcore. Obviously, me and Jonny both know a few of the comedy metal bands of different types.
Yeah.
We've been to a few of them together, I'm pretty sure as well. They do what they do well. I wouldn't say it's particularly my kind of thing, but I think I probably would go and see them live, and I probably would enjoy it. But I think it strikes me as it's going to be a lot better live than listen to it sat at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you'll be there to like get the whole crowd like grooving along to Groove Hammer. That would be.
Yeah. This is my thing about the hell. Ever since I've heard Groove Hammer and every other song, I don't feel like moshing. I don't feel like head banging. I just feel like wiggling my ass, and I think that's weird. No other metal band has just made me want to wiggle my ass, but they do for some strange reason. But yeah, I don't think I can watch them like head banging. It would just be ass wiggle, like with a pint, and like, yeah, you guys go on, you guys pit. I'm staying here. Yeah, this is good.
I like how like again, making like a psychostick comparison, when you have like your silly comedy metal, it's sort of like you can pick a lane, you can do like Oakley Dokley, you can make it sort of about one silly thing and try and elevate the thing to the point of tedium and making it funny, like songs about beards, songs about one particular thing. But what I really like about the hell is it's like a sketch show. You know what I mean? It's sort of scenario driven songs, scenario driven hardcore. I kind of appreciate the effort.
Scenario-driven hardcore.
Yeah, it almost undercuts like the dryness of the humor when you think they must have spent fucking hours like, thinking of like a hospital scenario and an illness about your own
Shite
band.
Club as well, where it's being with a bouncer and then being in a club that's crap where you have to pay loads of money for your drinks. And look, the songs weave into each other. There's some cleverness behind this shit.
And they're all just like really relatable scenarios as well, aren't they? Like fucking, I've got loads of money. That moment you get paid and you actually feel like fucking rich. And then your phone bill comes out and then it starts going to shit again. But like there's that brief moment, isn't there, where you're like, that's it, I'm going to get everything. I'm going to go buy some fresh fruit, some vegetables. I'm going to go to Waitrose. Like it's that kind of shit that you're like, yeah, no, I've been there. I've definitely done that.
Yes, especially the discount section where if you're lucky, you can have pheasant for tea for less than £5.
I'm going to check out the t-shirts, lads. Give me my comprehensive thoughts on music, you dick, merch, you dick.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty. Not too.
They're too busy for you though, Jim. That's
not
the thing.
too busy at all. Not too busy. Straight to the point. The only people who are going to recognize those t-shirts are the people who've also got the same t-shirts.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of things. Yeah, I do like the album art as well because it's usually one like color palette, and I feel like it's again less. I know my shtick appears to be less busy, but it's kind of it's that. why make it like a colorscape acid trip fucking little box of horrors when you could pay out a scenario and just make it look nice.
Yeah, the artwork the comic book artwork is cool. So we're getting mainly positive vibes for the hell, whereas they're not Justin's thing. But you would go see him live. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean it would grate on me after a while, but I'm in for the novelty now that I've just heard him properly.
I think that's all you can be with them, really.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's me left now, isn't there? So I think novelty applies to what I've brought to the table as well. But I would like to tell my tale of how I discovered this band. I remember it was some time ago, possibly 18 months, possibly longer. I have no idea. I saw a poster for something that I think was Manifest or some sort of like little festival like that. And I saw a band on there with a name. And I looked at that name and I went, nah, it can't be. as a band call themselves that, because if they have, they will probably be exactly what I'm thinking of. So I looked again at the name and I was like, yes, that is definitely the term for the first people through the breach in the siege during the Napoleonic Wars. This band can only be about one thing. And oh my God, they are. The band is Forlorn Hope, who are pretty much, if Iron Maiden and Sabaton had a nerdier child, is the best way to describe them. A nerdy child that just sings about the Napoleonic Wars, but in a galloping, awesome style. So they had debut album out last year, which is Over the Hills and Far Away, which is basically the series Sharp, just put to metal. It's the only way to describe it. But with a very, very good cover of the Sharp theme tune Over the Hills and Far Away, where they've actually changed the structure of the song a bit, and they've not just gone, oh, let's just take John Tams and put distortion on him and metal him up. Well, yeah, they're good by me and Jim saw them live on our very, very sensible day to go see them live in Manchester, where we asked that question which every metalhead asks himself at one point when you get a bit older and a bit more responsible, which is, does this gig venue serve coffee?
We spent about 4 hours sat at the back drinking Schweppes, waiting for the band that we came to see to come on.
Well, the 12 people in attendance who stayed for them loved them, and we did as well. Yeah, it's one of them where what they do on stage is what they do on the album, and I think it's one of these where it's like they know what their shtick is. It's just the galloping, maideny, Sabaton-y metal, and they've done the Napoleonic Wars. Then they've got a single out which was about World War One, but who knows if they're going to do an album on World War One? Who knows if they're going to go back to the Napoleonic Wars? But I also have a special place for these guys as well, because it's the only EP I've ever ordered off of Bandcamp, because I'm like, oh my God, Sharp metal exists, I must own this, and kept that CD in my car for months, and it's 4 tracks just on repeat. But they sent it out late, so they were really nice and sent me a signed photo of themselves stood in front of some war memorial. So that
I might have it.
Yeah, it's now on, signed Fox Cool, which is now on my desk next to my signed picture of Dave Benson Phillips. So my autograph collection grows more glorious every day. So Jonny, I'm seeing a lot of nods from you. So we'll go for you with your Forlorn Hope.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm going to congratulate you for only mentioning Sharp 4 times.
Yes.
I thought you were going to go for it a lot more than that. I was getting ready for some getting ready for some like severe penalties for the amount of times you mentioned Sharp.
No, we're here to talk about music. We're not here to talk about historical accuracies in the music and what have you. So,
but I think so I had the chance to review Forlorn Hope. They played at Power Metal Quest Fest.
That'll be the poster where I bloody saw that.
It probably was, in what 2019, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Down in Birmingham with the festival run by the Keesis, essentially. And they were shit hot there as well. Like, it was a surprisingly big crowd for them when I saw them.
Sharp fandom runs deep, mate.
It really does. And you know what? They really do play on the whole Sharp fandom as well. I don't know if you've seen that they released a series of patches, with their logo and their name on it. And then they released the second series, which is the same logo, but instead of Forlorn Hope, it just says Bastard.
Yes.
So if you haven't already got that, I am very surprised.
It's going to be on the way when I have some disposable cash. Don't you worry about that one.
I thought so. I mean, I did nearly buy it for you for your birthday. So, but yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it spot on. It's very Iron Maiden-y in the way the music gallops through. I think on their first album, I think the vocals might benefit from a bit stronger mixing. They come across a little bit flat sometimes, but I think that's something that will come as they go through and get stronger in the way they mix their own music, or they get on board with a decent producer. But that's absolutely no detraction from the band themselves. Like seeing them live they were pretty fantastic. I'd go as far as to say they are better live than they are on their own album. So I am really interested to see what comes of their next album and see if they do start building on that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna change the format because I went with Justin's Tales because Forlorn Hope are quite young. So have you had to refuse them entry to some bars you've been doing security on or something like that, or bought them the first pint or something, because they're from the woods?
I've been drinking with them in Manchester, yeah. I think the first time I met them, I bumped into them in Satan's, I think after they played a gig in Manchester. And then they just ended up at Satan's afterwards as something to do till the last train or whatever.
Which
And
is
then stayed afterwards anyway and got the first coach instead. Yeah, I ended up drinking with them, I think, most of that night. They seem decent lads in themselves. You said about Sabaton and I made, that's exactly what I picked up on, especially in the track Rifles. I made specific note of that. It was so much like the Trooper by Maiden, but almost like Sabaton covering it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I actually, when I went through the album, I actually picked the title track as probably my pick of the album, just because it was that bit different from the rest. So it kind of gave that bit more depth rather than, you know, they've done what they've done well. But there's not a great variation in the sound apart from, I would say, that title track.
Yeah, that's what's different about. But then this is one of these where it's like the different to the bands we've talked about, really, because they go, nope, we want to do this. We're going to do this well. This is what we're going to do. Cheers. If you love it, you love us. If you don't, well, wherever. I know where I stand on that. So
the other one I picked up on was Talavera, which sounded like John Farnham covering Sabaton. So yeah, I think I'd have to listen back through it several more times to kind of get that back again. I think, yeah, it was definitely something I picked up on a couple of listens through.
Sweet. Jim, round us off then with your live experience of Forlorn Hope.
Mate, no,
I was going to say I dragged you, but you drove, didn't you?
No, I was all over it, mate.
I drove you to, so.
I wanted to get some chicken, so I thought I'll go to a Forlorn Hope gig, then get some chicken. And if you want to treat yourself, go on forlornhope.uk. Just do it in a window while I'm chatting. Just the splash page is a fucking treat, absolute treat. Lifted straight from Royal Armies, it's brilliant. So yeah, the thing is, I'm going to bore you to death actually, because I'm going to completely imitate what Jonny said, and it's like, the production on that album is not representative of the live show. And furthermore...
Should that be printed on every copy from now on? The production in this album is not representative of the live show.
Furthermore, there's no top end on it, right? So, and there's some... I don't know if they're trying to differentiate themselves in the sound from, say, like your Maidens and your Sabatons, but there's certain power metal conventions which I would have expected them to hit those beats in terms of the production. Just a guy's got a good sort of high voice. It's a good angelic sort of sounding voice. So why don't they proper lean into it, get some effects on it? Like I'm talking like just reverb or something like that. It just doesn't sound as grand as it could sound grand, and it's really bottom heavy. And when it's in fact, I'd say it's even bottom heavy. Maybe the mid's taken out, so the guitars have no presence whatsoever. You got a lot of keys, and then you got a lot of kick, and then you've got the vocals taking up those higher frequencies, and that's it. When really, there's a lot of lead work which could be taking up that space and taking up that headroom, and it kind of takes me out of it as a live sound engineer, but no one else, obviously. But, you know, it's in the same way as we've been saying in terms of the songs and how it can, you know, some of it sounds a bit samey. Like for me in particular, I struggle with Talavera just because like it's one of those really draggy on sort of choruses. It almost sounds like, yeah, Maiden, Blaze Bayley Maiden to me. But I also understand it's early days. So once they've leaned a little bit more towards like picking a lane and going, all right, let's just fucking like bash out some news, blah, blah, blah. It'll come in time. Foundation's there, especially if they've gone for the novelty of like, all right, we're going to do Napoleonic Wars. This is going to be our thing, and it's going to be a right fucking laugh.
Yeah,
they've got like the Warhammer-esque artwork, and that's fucking brilliant. Cool. That's pinned me down as like a demographic and as an interested party, and I'm going to be there for the whole ride.
Yeah, they know the fan base, and they're just going to appeal to it. It's kind of like nerds, 50-year-old men.
And in that regard, I'm not too worried about production going forward, because it's something that just gets better with experience, and as you sort of expose yourself to more people who know what they're talking about. I'm joking, I'm full of shit, but I am right about that album. Similarly, making it sound more interesting, you know, I don't think it'll be too hard to make their brand of power metal interesting or more interesting as they go forward. Yeah, fucking Merseyside, man.
Yeah, right. Now what I think we should do is, if we can reach a consensus in about 2 minutes, who's our favourite band then out of the ones that we picked? I think we can disregard their hell because Justin ain't a fan. I'm going to say, and this is shooting myself in the foot, and I hate to do this, we're going to disregard Forlorn Hope because of the professional sound engineers' little niggles about everything. So we got a choice between Sky Valley Mistress and Video Nasties.
Well, are we going to say that the people who brought those particular bands can't vote for them? Are we going to say that?
It's going to be me and Jonny deciding anyway.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, then, Roy? Do you want me?
To make a closing statement, though, I think I'll say on Video Nasty sort of regard, I'd say there's definitely recently there's definitely a more emerging sound of like making grindcore more accessible. You can even hear it in like newer Napalm Death. It just sounds a lot cleaner and a lot easier to get into like than the older stuff. It's not quite as, it is fringe. Maybe, I don't know, the fan bases have expanded the horizons, or maybe they've come closer to like appealing to, you know, different kinds of ears. But I see them being like fucking huge in the next few years. But in a similar capacity, Sky Valley Mistress really appeals to that. This doesn't mean it in a disparaging way, but like Planet Rock in the summer is fucking shit up. It sometimes pulls out some really cool like classic rock and bluesy rock. Real fucking stalwarts. And I mentioned St. Jude, and that's a really good example of it. And it sits in that kind of category for me. And it's one I could definitely go back to for that reason. And it's just not, even though it's like pentatonic dad rock in terms of it's like, in terms of musicality, it's not boring.
All right, so that's Jim's little sum up of it. So Jonny, who are you going for then?
It's a difficult one though, isn't it? Because they are two completely different vibes.
Yeah, but that's the good thing about this.
I know they be each other in place. Like, yeah, if I was gonna sort of chill out and just have like a glass of whiskey in the evening, then I'd be Sky Valley Mistress all the way. But if I'm feeling a bit more aggressive, really want to get into something heavier, then it's gonna be Video Nasties. But if I was gonna pick one of the two, I think on this occasion, I hate to say this, but I think I might actually have to side with Jim on this one. And I'm gonna have to go with Video Nasties. I think they are the one that did really grab my attention just that slight little bit more than
I think as like an agenda point, I think if we're just here to boost the more obscure stuff that people might not have heard, it's disingenuous to pick a best one.
But it's like Highlander, and there can be only one.
Fucking hell, they're pure classic Mosley. There can only be one band.
The strongest band will rise to the top, exactly.
Because it's difficult because one day I might just be well up for a hell, and I might be well up for a Forlorn Hope. I'm not discounting anything in any regard. I'm just saying Video Nasties in terms of like, if we still sat here in 20 years, I bet you any money they'll be sat in mansions. I think that now's their time. And I don't think that's not saying they're the best of this four. I'm just saying that's why I picked them right now.
Fair. Well, I'm picking Video Nasties because with Sky Valley Mistress, I really, really like her singing. The music's not my cup of tea, whereas Video Nasties is. Whereas if Sky Valley Mistress sing a song with Video Nasties, that would be interesting.
She's more likely to do an intro though, isn't she?
Exactly. We get singing some horror movie intro, and we have a good in there.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So I think we've reached a consensus, and we're getting near the end of the time and shit. So we'll wrap this all up. So Uber Rock people, do you want to do your social media crap and what have you?
Go on, big man.
Plug your shit.
www.uber-rock.co.uk. I think it's the exact same on Twitter as well, but without the dash. And I haven't got a clue what Instagram is because I don't look after that.
I can tell you that one is Uber Rock Kicks Ass, I believe, is the Instagram.
Hotmail.com is that where it is, Jonny? Have we gone back to being 13 again? Yeah.
It's not quite that bad, but I'm pretty sure that's what our Instagram is.
Sweet, Jim. Do you want to do ours? If anyone,
yeah. All right, I'll do that. Google's templeofblair.co.uk for all written interviews I've done. Temple of Blair and everything, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm at RobaJett on all those things except Instagram because I can't be asked. It's all just mostly interviews with Roadrunner people. The current project is the history of Roadrunner Records. Chapter 1 of the documentary is going to be out this Friday. I've literally just received the last approval. Thank fuck. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Sweet, right? We will.
Fucking it.
That is fucking it. We will end that there then, and we will be back next time when all 4 of us can actually decide properly on the time we're free to do.
I've already decided what picture's going to go there.
Yes, exactly. I'll sort that out for next time.
Is it a picture of Sharp?
No.
It might just be Sharp with my face on. No, we can't do my face, can we? It might be Sharp with Benson Phillips' face on it. There we go.
And maybe Dave with Sharp's face on.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
That's the winner.
That's the winner. Awesome.
No, just the darling.